I'm Wendy, and welcome to another episode of Love, Loss, and Lipstick, my series that I do every week while I'm getting ready for work. When I'm done putting on my makeup, today's story will be over. So if you were here, if you saw last week, Steve ended up taking a job near San Diego. So it was a couple hours in the opposite direction of where he was already living. Before he found an apartment there, he did have some family friends that lived on the other side of San Diego, right before you got to Mexico. And he was staying there in the interim until he found a place to live near Solana Beach. So this family friend, I have to mention because it's a big part of our story, but just for their privacy or whatever, I'm gonna try not to say anything more than I need to. But I started on day one sharing how Steve didn't have a great relationship with his mother, but his best friend's mom, and just family overall, he was very close to. And it started with the best friend's sister, who he met first when he was in middle school. I think he was playing hockey and she was a figure skater, and that was how they met. And it turns out that her brother was a hockey player, and so he and the brother met and became best friends. And so their mom was like his other mother, and he was very close to them, and they lived on the other side of San Diego. So we actually were like living even farther apart than what I originally had said, because it was 2 hours to San Diego and they were a little bit past San Diego. So seeing each other was not easy. And it wasn't great for the relationship, but we were doing our best to make it work. And then he did, in the end, find a place to live that was a little bit closer to his work and closer to me. But it was February now, and Thanksgiving was coming up. Valentine's Day. And this was my first Valentine's Day with a boyfriend. And I wanted to do something special. Of course, I had never done anything like this before, but there was a hotel with a nice restaurant in our town. It was Embassy Suites, and it had a velvet turtle. It was probably one of the nicer restaurants where we lived. And so I had this idea that if I could get him there, that was the challenge. If I could get him there, I was gonna go and get a room and get it all set up romantic for Valentine's Day and not tell him about it and have dinner. And I just had this whole thing planned. So he promised he would come and that he would be there. So I went earlier in the day. I had bought some new lingerie with some like red hearts, Valentine's-ish. I brought a bottle of champagne and put it on ice and some candles, and got it all set up. And then went back home. He met me at my house. We went to the restaurant. We had a really nice dinner, and I was so nervous about what was coming. But I had put the hotel key, in an envelope with a note saying to, meet me at the room. And anyway, so I was so nervous, but we finished dinner and I excused myself. I'm like, I need to go to the restroom. And I got up and I went and found our waiter and asked him if he would give Steve the envelope. And then I ran out. I ran out of the restaurant. I went up to the room And I hurried and I got changed and got everything ready, turned on some music. And I thought, okay, you know, like, where do I put myself? I tried to, you know, I guess I'll just like try and position myself all sexy on the bed. But like I said, I'd never done anything like this before. And so I was ready and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then it dawned on me. I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't pay. I didn't pay for dinner. And I ran out. And what if he didn't have any money with him and he couldn't pay? But I thought, surely that's not the case because he had a credit card. So I thought, okay, he can pay for dinner, even though it was supposed to be my treat. I totally forgot about that. I also totally forgot the order that I normally do my makeup. So I'm backing up a little bit. Anyways, I thought, okay, should I get dressed and go back down and make sure everything's okay? And I thought, well, what if I go back down while he's coming up and, you know, he's in a different elevator or something and he comes up and I'm not here? I don't know. I was thinking all the things. And I thought, I guess I should probably just stay put and trust that he's going to find his way and that he'll show up at some point. So I waited and waited. It felt like an eternity. I ended up opening the champagne. I turned on the TV. Just kind of, you know, sitting up on the bed, like waiting. And finally, I don't know how long it was. Like I said, it felt like it was an eternity. I hear the key in the door. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so he walks in. And it was sweet. He had some flowers. And he said, do you have any idea how hard it is to find flowers on Valentine's night at 9 o'clock? So he had been out looking for flowers. He said, I wasn't going to show up empty-handed. And I thought that was really sweet, although I was a little irritated that I was waiting for so long. And anyways, in Steve fashion, he had a great sense of humor. He said, you know, I got to tell you, for a minute, I thought the waiter was hitting on me. I thought, oh my gosh, that is so funny. The waiter probably felt kind of uncomfortable too, handing him an envelope with a hotel key. But anyways, so we ended up having a nice Valentine's and all that was good. But we were coming up on our anniversary. It was like the anniversary of when we started dating, March-ish. And he had planned, he said, let's go on a vacation. And I thought, okay. He planned a trip to Mexico. The place that he worked at, they had a timeshare or something. And so they said that he could use it. And we were going to go to Mexico, and it was our first vacation. I was really excited. I'm a hairstylist, so I had to mark the time off the books. And I got the, you know, okay from my boss or whatever, you know, to take some time off. So looking forward for Mexico. And I went and bought some new clothes to wear or whatever. I was excited for our first vacation. And so the night before, I was packing and he was still in the San Diego area. So he was still, you know, was coming up to my house because we were flying out closer to where I live. And he called me and told me that he couldn't go, that they booked him on a job and he had to work. And I was so mad, and then he got mad at me because I was mad at him, but he had to work. But still, it just really made me mad. It made me mad that they did that, but, you know, I don't know, what could you do? So I would get mad a lot when he would cancel things because he had to work, and then he would get mad at me for getting mad at him, and it was just a vicious cycle, and it was really irritating. And so now I had a week scheduled off of work with nobody on my book. So, I mean, if I don't work, I don't get paid, and if my, anyways, so I'm sure you get it. And he did feel bad. He felt horrible. So he had already thought about how to make it up to me. And he said, I want you to grab one of your besties, my friend Beth. He picked out who I was going to grab. I don't know if he talked to her already or not. But he said, I'm going to send you guys to Las Vegas for a few days to make up for it. And I thought, okay, you know, that helps. I mean, he was trying. So Beth and I hopped on a plane and we flew to Vegas. Of course, we were in the Los Angeles area, so it's a super easy trip and quick to get there. I don't remember what all we did. I remember we had a great time. And I remember that the last night, we stayed out till like the wee hours of the morning. And neither one of us were experienced travelers. So we didn't know to ask for a late checkout or anything like that. So we ended up going to bed at like, I don't know, 6 in the morning. We were out all night, drinking heavily too. So we were, besides being impaired, we didn't know that we could ask for a late checkout. So we got up, you know, we napped. We got up, showered, got dressed, packed, and checkout was like at 10 o'clock. And our flight was at 7 p.m. So we had all day. We had all day, and we didn't have very much money left. And we were like, what the heck are we gonna do? To be honest, I don't think we even knew that you could ask if the concierge or the, you know, if they would hold on to your luggage for you. And so I'm pretty sure that we brought our luggage with us and carried our luggage for the whole day. So what I do remember is that we took the bus, the city bus, to downtown Las Vegas from the Strip. At the time, downtown Las Vegas was kind of seedy, but we found a movie theater, and so we thought, well, we can go to the movies and we can sleep. So we like take our suitcases, and I don't even think back then suitcases had wheels on them. So we probably just looked like, you know, homeless people. But we took our suitcases and we went to see a movie. I don't know if we watched the movie or if we slept. And then we had nowhere else to go but to the airport. So we got to the airport way early for our flight. And we just continued to nap a little bit in the airport. It was a good time. For sure, it was a good time. And it made up. It made up for not being able to go to Mexico a little bit. You know, I still wasn't happy about it, but it was better. So we got through that. Steve was really not happy with his new job. It had been a few months now. He was settled in to his place. And it was kind of an apartment. It wasn't really an apartment. It was almost like a duplex. But the landlord, it was this really cool house. And I think it was a she, had it split into 2 separate units. And so it appeared to be kind of a duplex, but it was one house. It had one HVAC system that we constantly were fighting with the neighbor over the temperature, and we didn't understand why. We didn't know that. But it's like, dang, why is it so hot in here? And, you know, Steve would turn down the thermostat, and then at some point, you know, it would be turned back up. And it wasn't too long later that, I don't know, the city, somebody, I don't know, they found out what was going on. And they were shutting it down or whatever the legal, I don't know. He had to find someplace else to live. And we weren't really sure what he was going to do because he wasn't really happy there. And he wasn't really happy with his job. But now it was May-ish, which was our real anniversary, our 1-year anniversary of dating, or of actually, you know, being in a relationship. And it was really hard. And of course, me having no experience, I had nothing to compare it to. But Steve said, let's plan a real vacation. We'll celebrate our anniversary. And I promise that I'll be able to go. Because now I had trust issues. If I was going to take the time off work, I wanted a guarantee. But we decided we were going to go to Hawaii. If you've watched any of these previous episodes, I had gone to Hawaii a year before, almost exactly a year before, by myself, and then he went to Hawaii after I did with his friend. I told you his friend. So he said, let's go together, let's experience it together. We both love it. So that was the plan. We were going to go to Hawaii. So we got there. We got there in the evening. We had time to go to the beach and like watch the sunset and have dinner. And the next day, we did some shopping and some sightseeing, but I was like, when are we going to the beach? I'm a beach girl. I want to sit on the beach. He is not a sit on the beach guy. He's not a sitter, he's a doer. To him, sitting on the beach was as painful and boring as watching baseball with me. So he finally, it was like day 3, and he's like, okay, we're gonna go to the beach today. So I am done. I am ready to go to work. Next week is, I'm gonna work up the nerve. Next week is kind of a big deal. I hope everybody has a great day. Thank you for watching, and this will go to my YouTube channel so that it will never be deleted. Bye.